All right guys, we got a cool video for you today. We're going to be talking about realistic deer sounds, what they sound like in the woods by real deer, and then how we try to recreate them in different hunting scenarios. We got some calls here, some rattling antlers there on the ground. We got the Woodhaven Intimidator call, which is the one that we use most frequently, a couple different options there. The cool thing here is you guys are going to get to see deer making these sounds in actual hunting situations. And then me and Zinger are going to get down in there and kind of run you through each one. When bucks are chasing does, they're making a lot more sounds other than just grunting. All right, as you can hear there, they're making a variety of different sounds. It's not just meh, meh,
yeah,
and that's it. You know, they're changing the volume of their grunting. It's cool to watch them when they're actually chasing a doe, like through the woods, and that sound is actually moving as the deer is moving. It's not just coming from a stationary location, which is what a lot of hunters do. They get up in a tree and they just grunt from the same spot. So you can see these deer are moving around. I mean, that one buck that you and Ted got on in the canoe, that thing was grunting and tending the doe for how long?
Oh yeah, long
in that area.
I mean, he was in there actually for a couple of days.
Yeah.
I think we saw him for 2 days straight, so he was in there for a while.
Yeah, and he's grunting if they hear him at night as they're going in there, and then as it gets daylight, he's chasing that doe around and he's crashing through the brush, thrashing limbs and everything, snort wheezing at other bucks. There's a lot to unpack there. The first sound that is the most basic sound is just the grunting.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they get frustrated at a doe and they'll go, you know, and they'll grunt real loud to get her to stop. I don't know if that's what they're actually saying to her or not, but you can see that they're getting excited. And then it's the leaves.
That's the big thing for me, is like leaves crashing around. Like in the example that you used when Ted and I were in the canoe, there was water splashing. I mean, you could hear the things jump in the river in front of us and go across. I think a lot of times other deer are just simply hearing the commotion. And if it's the right time of year, they can kind of figure out what's going on, especially if they expect other deer to already be in that area.
You think you guys could sound like a buck chasing a doe running down through the woods right
Absolutely.
Here? Zach's gonna be the buck, Mitch is gonna be the doe. Thank you, Mitch. And they're gonna go down over the ridge here and try to mimic that scenario that we just watched. You can barely hear him grunting.
Yeah, sounds good though.
That sounds like a chase.
Yeah.
Yep. Notice how he's stopping down there every once in a while, like he's pausing. Like they won't, a lot of times they'll go blitzing through the woods nonstop, but then they'll hold up, they'll slam on the brakes, and then he'll run up to her and then bump her again and break something.
A lot of times too, they're not necessarily right on her butt the whole time. They're like stopping and she'll take off a little bit. And
yeah.
He's watching her.
That sounded like a chase.
Which I think like Zach was saying, the only way that that's like applicable when you're hunting is if you're trying to get to your tree stand. You know, like you take off running and sound like a deer.
That sounded incredible.
Did it?
Oh yes. Yeah, like especially when you knock that limb down there.
I did that on purpose for sure.
The grunting was pretty quiet, but you could definitely hear it.
And it probably made it more convincing. Like when you'd hear the crashing probably louder, and then you'd hear the grunt within and be like, oh yeah, that is deer.
Yeah.
Deer.
And I've never heard that from a distance. That call sounded really good.
Sweet.
Yeah, really good.
I saw Mitch over there doing these little steps, but it sounded just like a deer running.
What I was doing was like just kind of dragging my feet to try to sound like, or like at different times too, I was like, I'm gonna just kind of, because you've seen bucks like do a little stomp to get does going.
That's what Ted was saying. It's like they kind of stop and start.
Which was our whole plan, yeah.
Yeah.
I lost myself in it, if I'm being honest. I was deer there for a while. That was pretty fun.
Buck bearing ball.
I think we're gonna have to hunt more. Like, I think we've opened up a whole new can of
accessing your spot at least.
Oh,
like
definitely.
that's covering country fast and sounds like a deer.
Yeah.
Like 2 deer.
It's like, got to be ready though.
Oh yeah.
There's a buck bedded right here, and he hears that. He's coming over the ridge
That's why
immediately.
the stress test and the shootout is going to be helpful for your new hunting strategy.
Yep.
I think with leaves on, if you know, this is a kind of a strange woods. It's extremely open, which also made it a little bit harder yet to make it as realistic as I think you could in the fall, where you got more leaf litter. But with leaves on, you're blocking opposite hillsides, and I feel like that's just gonna really create some opportunity to get tighter to deer, especially if you're moving in there late. You maybe don't have a lot of time to hunt in a day, like an after work type hunt. I feel like that's where you could definitely push it and get more aggressive. I mean, you and I did it one time. Pretty sure we just ran around the corner and spooked a buck because we were going too fast.
We were going too fast.
But we got right on, but we got right to him.
If you're running through the woods, don't tie your wood haven call around your neck. You're running, you're being a buck chasing a doe. Next thing you know, you're sliding down the ridge and got hung up.
Buck chasing a doe, take 3.
This is Woodhaven Intimidator from 50 yards downhill.
It's a lot louder.
I mean, that sounds real to me.
Yeah.
That sounds very realistic.
Yeah,
that call was louder too.
Probably
put more air pressure in it.
Those heavy steps in the branches break.
Those heavy steps sound like a deer. Like you have your eyes closed, that sounds like a buck and a doe.
What were you doing with your feet specifically? Anytime I could make a little extra noise. I mean, granted, conditions are a little wet and like
Running like this.
pretty open. Yeah. Anytime I get my feet in leaves, I just kind of like drag, and then just, if I didn't see him moving, I'd think of like, what's a buck do when the doe starts going? And just try to create that.
Were
chaos.
you changing the way you were running, Mitch?
Yeah.
Like from normal? I was gonna say, were you doing them little short steps?
Yeah.
It sounded just like a deer
Thanks.
trotting.
Appreciate that. He's a good doe.
He's a good doe.
Good doe.
Man.
Could you hear this one better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could hear it in my own ears, way clearer.
Yeah, they both sounded very realistic, but that time with that call, that was louder.
I wonder if the reed's just different, like
How hard were you blowing it?
like this.
See, that's good to have that frame of reference from this far away from the camera. It's like, that sounds pretty loud when you're 3 feet from it, but when you're just over a lip at 40 yards, you can hear it, but it's not super loud. Like if you get up there where the trucks are at, another 60, 70 yards up there, I don't know if you would hear that gun.
Well,
You might barely hear it, but you would probably hear you running.
It would be interesting to go out like 2 or 3 ridges over at this elevation and see if it comes through there differently. Let's see if I can get louder on this call even.
Yep. Yeah, even if you start blowing that reed out a little bit, I don't think it's gonna hurt anything. Yeah, that won't hurt anything because it
Especially
right
if
here.
you're running.
Yeah, and when you're that far through the woods, it sounds like a deer grunting. It sounds like a buck roaring, if you will. But that's an interesting thing that we're gonna have to play with. Like especially for getting in and out of a spot.
I like how
on
excited
a calm
you are
morning.
about
Like,
it.
we're always like, how do you get into a scenario like this in a calm morning? Like, because you're crunching and making so much noise. Well, that might be it right there.
Yeah,
like-
I definitely think it's
go
hard to
buck
bring
and doe
yourself
mode.
to do
He's
it,
having the time
but
of his life.
Yeah, I know. He's loving it.
yeah, it's fun. It's really weird how much if you really visualize, you can kind of just become the deer. You know?
Well,
Next thing you know, I'm gonna be getting in a head fight with one. You know what I mean?
Well, we're going to do that here in a minute. That's the first scenario I wanted to show y'all. I wanted to show y'all a real life example of bucks chasing does and then recreate it. Obviously that worked. Now we want to show you an example of bucks getting territorial, where this has worked several times for us, where you're like one-on-one with a buck, where he's raking a tree or hitting a rub, he's scraping the ground, he might be occasionally grunting, snort wheezing. He's not chasing, but he's displaying his dominance.
Yeah, 1v1 buck.
1v1, yeah. So let's go down in there and recreate that. We'll show y'all what that sounds like here at first. We got some footage of bucks making scrapes and making rubs. I mean, Jake, you all called in that one buck, like right at last light, where Jake got like a cedar tree right between him and the buck one time.
Oh yeah, I do remember which one you're talking about.
Me and Greg had the same thing. Did the same thing on a buck one time that was locked down with a doe, where we got in there and we're thrashing a tree and snort wheezing at him, and we're able to bring him in.
Roy and I called that one in by scraping. We didn't get him, but it brought him to 8 yards.
Yeah.
And he was scraping right back to us, and it was obvious like that he was responding exactly the way that we were calling to him. We'd scrape, he'd scrape. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah, we've seen it happen multiple times. So let's show y'all what that sounds like, and then we'll redo it. Are you ready?
I think so. I mean, I'm gonna build it up. I'm gonna go in like I'm gonna pretend like nobody else is here. I'm just doing my thing.
All right. Zinger's about, what is that, 80 yards across the draw down there. He's up against a big brush pile now. He's gonna sound like a territorial buck. All right, go ahead. Snort wheeze. That's pretty crazy. Think you picked up?
Coming into it or not?
Yeah, come on. That sounds good.
Yeah.
It's crazy that the volume of the call,
That's what
you
I was
could
thinking.
barely hear that grunting,
Yeah.
and you could barely hear the snort wheeze, but you could hear that raking, especially
the
in the
raking,
tree.
and probably where either a branch contacted another branch, or it was the thickest part of the antler like contacted a branch.
Yeah, you could hear that,
That
antler.
loud antler hit of a branch, to me that sells it.
Yeah.
That really sells it.
I think after hearing this, it's like we always talk about how much realism the ground noise adds.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that actually carries the furthest. That might be the thing that they can hear the most.
Yeah.
Or it might be the only thing they hear, especially if you're doing a bunch of ground noise.
Yeah. I'm going to have him kind of show us what he was doing in a small scale right here when he gets up here so y'all can see it. But, I mean, you would have been able to see it with Nick down there because he was filming it. But you can hear the scraping, the raking with the antler.
Better than the grunt?
Way better. Like, you could barely hear the grunt. Unless you're pointing it
Did you
like...
hear me snort wheeze?
Yes,
Yeah.
we could hear that.
The loudest thing and the most realistic thing to me was when that hit the branch. Hit that loudest
what they
sound,
just
whatever
said.
that was. Like that's
The way he pulled it out too, like he got it in there good first, like an antler would be, before he twisted and yanked it out.
that's
Yeah.
the sound. Like, have you ever had it where you think you hear a buck making a working a branch, and then all of a sudden you hear that loud sound. It's like, oh yeah.
That's what you could hear. And that's what Ted just said, is like, I wonder if a lot of times they're hearing that and they're going to that, they're not even hearing the call until they get within a certain distance.
Probably a good chance. I also wasn't ripping that call necessarily. I was by no means like overdoing it. I was doing soft grunts. But
still though, that's 80 yards through. Yeah. There's nothing to break that sound up in between, you know, you and
air.
us. Yes.
The thing that like both groups said like sounds the most realistic is the antler, like getting up in the branch, and like if you watch bucks make a scrape, and then also just looking at like a licking branch, a lot of times they're twisted. So like what you're saying, I try to take it in there and kind of catch onto something, and then twist and pull down and like pop it off there, and it kind of makes that clank clank.
Oh, just sound. Watch Ted Miller's bucks on the horizontal rubs.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times what they're doing when they're hitting a rub or a licking branch or whatever is they're going at it real aggressively for that 3-4 swings or strokes, and then they're stopping and they're licking it and they're smelling it, and then they go back to it again. You know, it's not just a constant raking. There's pauses in between there and stuff, and that's why it sounded so real to me.
And I think there's a couple of things to unpack in regard to that too. It's like if you're the deer, the reason you may be doing that too is obviously the smell and everything, but to listen for other deer. I think part of the reason they stop is like, who heard that? Y'all hear that? Okay, I'll do it again. The advantage that we have mimicking that as hunters is that allows us to do the same thing.
Yeah, but big time lesson, listen for all these other sounds in addition to grunting and all that, even more so than grunting, because that's what gives them away a lot of the time. The third one that we're going to show y'all is real-time buck fights. I want you to rattle from a fixed position without any extra ground noise and show people what that sounds like versus actually trying to sound like two bucks fighting down in there. You're good whenever.
Okay. So we're gonna just do a real basic rattle, no extra ground noise, just not get too serious, too wild, kind of more of what we've heard, you know, other hunters do from a distance on public land. Here we go.
All right, that was the hunter rattling, and it sounded like a hunter rattling to me. It did. No extra sound. Now let's see what the difference is when he actually tries to sound like two bucks fighting. All right, now sound like two bucks actually fighting.
All right, I'm gonna get in the thick.
And now he's ready to shoot. That did sound way more realistic.
Oh, yeah,
Once again, almost the loudest part is just the leaves and the branches and all the commotion.
That's what's carrying the furthest for sure, I would think, through the woods.
I mean, you can hear the antlers, definitely. They're still a component of it, but before that, you don't have all that commotion going. Not to say you can't rattle them in up in a tree without all that commotion. You certainly can. But that sounded like bucks actually fighting, like in that clip while ago.
Yeah. And it's interesting, too, like he was moving all around, and from here, I mean, it's not like he's necessarily covering a bunch of ground, making a ton of movement over there. He's just kind of in that one circle right there.
Yeah, he's
and
destroying
jumping
that
back.
one brush pile over
Yeah.
there.
Did it sound cool?
Yeah.
It sound cooler
I
the
was
second
laughing pretty hard, so I, had a hard time hearing it for a minute. But yeah.
one. Yeah, apparently they about peed their pants over there too.
You sure got a battle wound on there.
Yeah. You got to get into it, if you're gonna be serious.
Yeah, look at all the. Are those all seed ticks? No, it's just
it's
dirt on your hand.
It's just general dirt from being a deer for so long this afternoon here. When I'm doing that, I guess I'm doing like less of this and more of the feet on the ground and
Motion.
yeah, because I feel like sometimes, a lot of times at least, they get together and they just push.
Yeah.
And then as they break away and come back, they're making, the ground noise in between, but it's really, a lot of times, like, they get together and it's just kind of this. And then they break apart, then they come back, but a lot of that noise is just pushing, breaking, whatever.
Once again, that's the stuff they carried the furthest, even further
Really?
than the, yes.
Tripping over the log or kicking the log. Yeah.
Plowing into the log mostly.
So what you usually hear out there is what you did first, where it's a guy that just goes, for 30 seconds, then he puts them down and does a couple grunts.
Yeah.
And that does not sound anything like what you were just doing there. That commotion was crazy though. You could hear that from a long ways. That's the most interesting part to me, is that is the sound that's carrying the furthest. The branches breaking, the leaves, the ground noise itself. And then the antlers just added realism to it.
Yeah.
And maybe they hear that, and then they hear the tickling of the tines together, and they're like, oh, that's two bucks fighting. Here I go.
That's pretty sweet, really, to hear that too, because like I think we've thought that, but this is a really cool test. I kind of want to do this more often. It's like when you actually get out here and experiment with the sounds, it kind of makes you think like, man, what do I not know about what do I think is happening versus what's actually happening when I'm calling anytime, probably just not casting it nearly as far as you think.
Yeah.
I guess that's my big takeaway.
Yeah, that one day, that buck that me and Gooch killed a couple years ago, that I was like blowing the guts out of the call trying to get him to pick his head up. It was a similar situation to this, where we were on top of the ridge and he was in a bowl like that, except the wind was blowing. No wonder he couldn't hear me. It's amazing he can't hear that. He can't hear it though. Got a freaking grunting symphony up here. You were blowing that call loud in that bottom,
Yeah.
and we could barely hear it up here in a dead calm scenario. Imagine a wind blowing 30 miles an hour. You got to be
like dried up rustling.
Yeah,
leaves
you got to
in the
be
tree.
30 yards from him in order for him to hear it. So that's pretty cool. I'd advise doing that test on this, or for elk, or for turkeys, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe different times of the year too. I think it'd be really interesting to compare this sound to what it would sound like in February. When you've got more similar conditions to like late season hunting. Or late
Less
November.
humid air, less vegetation on the trees. That sound carrying further and further. That was pretty cool. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. We gotta get back to house those and take a shower now.
I sure enjoyed it. Thanks for letting me do that.
No better man for the job.
than Buck Fair and Ball.
Buck Fair and Ball.